Hi there, I'm Martin and welcome to lesson 2 of this fabulous course. Yesterday my colleague Ricardo explained to you the idea of creating a proto-persona, figuring out who it is you're selling your book to. And today I'm going to take it one step forward and talk about your product, making sure your product is fit for market. Now, I'm using product, it sounds like a bit of a sanitary term because you're building a great piece of art, a great piece of work here, but I'm not just talking about the book. Like if you're selling milk, right? So you're not just selling the liquid contents of it, you're also selling the carton, the writing on it, the artwork on it. And so when we're talking about your product, we're talking about making sure that your book and everything that surrounds it, that faces the customer, is right for the market. So what is the product we're talking about? We're talking about the writing, that is the book itself, the experience of turning pages. We're talking about the cover design. We'll talk about the blurb, and then ultimately we're also talking about the metadata, the information that's going on to Amazon or to Kobo or any other platform you might be selling on. Now, what is your product? Everything basically has to be in a row in order for your book to be a success. Having a good book is the minimum barrier to entry. Like you could throw as much money as you want in your marketing, but if the book itself doesn't work, then you're not going to get the positive word of mouth going forward. And so that means you need to put your money and invest in making sure that your writing is up to snuff at the beginning. You need to make sure that your book cover is as good as it could be. It's the first thing people see when they either catch it on the bookshop shelves or they see it as a thumbnail on Amazon. You need to make sure that your blurb is working super hard, because if people read your blurb and they're not keen, then they're just going to pass over. You have to get their attention in the first 3 seconds. And then ultimately, we're also talking about making sure your metadata is up to scratch so that Amazon is serving your book to the people who are going to be most likely to buy that product. Now, you may have heard the term making sure it fits to market, and that's absolutely critical when you're marketing your own book. You've got to make sure that the market exists for it, and then your book actually meets that need in some way. So a lot of people will do a lot of market research before they start and figure out what is working there. We use the example of the Jack Reacher novels because they're really hot right now, and a lot of people have cottoned onto that fact and started patterning themselves after the Jack Reacher novels. We're going to talk about an example later that does this absolutely very well, but they'll see what kind of stories are they talking about. It's got spies in it, it's got exotic locations. What sort of cover has it got? It's all very moody. Certain fonts are used, certain types of imagery pop up again and again. When you're doing your blurb, you want to throw in all these exciting words that that fans of the genre are looking for, to identify to them that this is the sort of book they're looking for. And ultimately, we're also talking about choosing the keywords and categories that allow Amazon to fully understand that this is the kind of book you're writing and who to serve that to. And now let's just take a look at a couple of examples from a few different genres to see how best to hone your product.
Let's start with fiction. And what better example could we offer than Mark Dawson, the British author who is also one of the shining lights of the self-publishing world. Here is book 1 of his Isabel Rose series, and the first thing I want to draw your attention to is the cover. It's a great-looking, moody design that uses stock imagery to great effect, but more importantly, it acts as a signal to readers. In the world of action-led thrillers, the most successful writer going right now is Lee Child, the author of the Jack Reacher novels. Here is the cover for Child's Personal. Does it look familiar? How about this, the cover for The Visitor and Night School? What Dawson is doing here with his cover design is putting his product on a level with the Jack Reacher books, telling his prospective readers that if you like those books, then you might like these too. Now let's look at the product description. That's the bit of text near the top of the page. As you'll notice, Amazon only gives shoppers a tiny glimpse of the full description before they have to click on Read More. This is why it's so important that the first few lines of your description really work. Here he jumps straight into the world of the book, drawing a quick sketch of the inciting incident that's intended to draw the readers in. You see that there is a terror attack, and before we hit the Read More button, we're introduced to this top-secret intelligence organization. All very exciting stuff. Hopefully, that is enough to entice you into clicking through and reading the rest of his blurb. Or maybe you're already sold on the book and you want to save yourself the spoilers. Now, let's look at a non-fiction book. When we talk about non-fiction, we don't usually mean something like historical accounts or memoirs. We mean books that people read that help them do something or do it better. In essence, they work by solving a problem that the reader knows that they have, or by explaining a problem that readers never knew they had, and then solving it for them. The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck is an Amazon bestseller that promises something big. It will make you happier by changing the way you approach work and life. It's a real swing for the fences kind of book. Starting with the title, it already tells the reader something. It's irreverent and funny, and if you're the sort of person fed up with the BS that's associated with the pursuit of success, then this book might be for you. Then there's the cover design itself. Personally, it reminds me a little of Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, another book that promises to radically alter the reader's approach to life, as well as other self-improvement guides. Here's a recent cover for Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. This sort of typographic-led cover design is common to non-fiction, and looking at it, you already know that this isn't a novel. Now, let's look at the first few lines of the description, which really plays the social validation angle quite hard. If you know that other people have read this book, you're more likely to check it out for yourself. And there it is, right at the top. #1 New York Times bestseller, and over 1 million copies sold. Now, 1 million people can't be wrong, can they? Then, before the Read More button, there's a one-sentence blurb that ticks all the boxes. What is this? It's a generation-defining self-help guide. Who wrote it? A superstar blogger. How does it work? It cuts through the crap to show us how to stop being positive all the time. Why would I want that? So we can truly become better, happier people. Now, if that blurb doesn't appeal to you, then you probably aren't the target market, and you really don't need to click Read More. Now let's have a quick look at a memoir. Here's Kimberly Ray Miller's bestseller, Coming Clean, which recounts her life experience growing up in a rat-infested home with a father who obsessively hoards, and her subsequent journey as an adult to come to terms with her past. Now, the cover design here is lovely. It's simple, and it works on a number of levels. The progression of unscrunching paper hearts alludes to the hoarded newspapers that figures heavily into the book. It also suggests someone opening a heart, hinting towards the recovery and the redemption aspect of the story. This conceptual design reminds me a bit of This Eat, Pray, Love cover, which the publisher no doubt had in mind. You can imagine that Coming Clean is also targeted towards readers who might be interested in hearing about a professional woman who's coming to terms with emotional truths. Then, of course, there's this product description. It paints a quick picture that sets up the basic conflict of Miller's book. Now, this blurb leaves the reader with questions, good questions. Did Miller become fastidious as a reaction to their home life? Is her perfect life a facade that hides a lifetime of pain? What's going to happen in this book that makes her face her past? The rest of the description expands on this, but basically, if that first paragraph doesn't work, then the rest doesn't matter either. But this is one that's well done.
Okay, for today's homework, I'm going to set you the task of writing the blurb for your book. Try to keep it under 150 words. If you can't get across the essence of your book in that time, you're probably not doing it right. But as soon as you have that blurb, that pitch for your book, it's something that's going to pay dividends down the road. You're going to be using it on the back cover of your book. You're going to be using it on Amazon, on your Facebook ads. If you spend the most amount of time on any element of writing in your entire book, make sure it's the blurb. So good luck with that. See you for the next lesson.